Hey students, good morning. In this video, we are going to see about the economic aspects of utilization. In these economic aspects, we are going to see about the load curves. What is load curve? A load curve is a graphical representation that illustrates how electrical power demand changes over a specific period, usually plotted against time. So this first diagram represents the basic load curve. The x-axis represents the time for a period of 24 hours. Y-axis represents the power demand changes, that is load in megawatts. For each and every hour, what is load in megawatts? That representation is nothing but load curve. It basically shows the variation in demand made by a power station or system over a period, such as day, week, a month, or a year. Load curves are essential for power system planning, operation, and tariff determination. That is very important factor. Load curve, very essential for a power system in order to plan, operate, and determine the tariffs. So here the second image and the third image or figures represents the load curve and load duration curve. If we are going to take further with respect to time, what is the power demand changes over a period? That is nothing but load curve. Load duration curve, what is the maximum load in megawatts? That vary with respect to hours. If you are going to take for the 20 megawatts, that is takes place for a period of 0 to 8 hours duration. The load utilized is 20 megawatts, that is power demand. Similarly, for the period 8 to 12 hours, the power demand is 15 megawatts. Similarly, from the hours 12 to 24 hours, their load in megawatts is 5. So during this period, the load duration for this period, the power demand is 5 megawatts. We have to represent the duration of the load with respect to power and demand, that is nothing but load duration curve. Okay, hope you have understood about that. What is meant by basic load curve and what is load duration curve. This diagram represents the example of daily electrical load profiles. For a typical home, load factor varies 30% to 60%. Similarly, for a typical commercial building, factors varies 20% to 80%. For example, an industrial load factor varies sometimes above 90%. For representing the same for load curve, we are going to define graphical representation of the electric power demand over a time. We have seen source variation demand made by power system or power station or power system. Okay, essential for power system planning, operation, and tariff determination. We are going to see about the importance of the load curve. Why we have to study, or what is the need of load curve? Why we have to consider about the load curve in power system? There are 5 major important things we need to consider for the load curve. The first one is planning and operation. Determine the size and number of generating units needed. Similarly, schedule operation to meet demand efficiently. It is requires we need to consider the or calculate the load curve. Similarly, for the second point, our second important parameter is tariff setting. It helps in setting appropriate electricity tariff based on the demand. The third point and the third important thing in the load curve is system stability. In order to maintain stable system by matching generation with the demand. The fourth one is forecasting, used to predict future energy demand for proactive planning. And the fifth one is understanding load patterns, reveals energy consumption patterns in different sectors, enables targeted energy management strategies. So these are the factors we have to consider the importance of the load curve. We have to plan tariff settings, stability of the system, forecast, and understanding the load factors. So it describes the importance of the load curves. We are going to see about the key aspect of the load curves. Daily load curve. Daily load curve means this curve depicts the variation in electrical load over the 24-hour period, showing peak demand times and periods of lower demand. Monthly and yearly load curves are also there. We are going to calculate the curves representing the average load variation over a month or a year. It is used for long-term planning and tariff setting. The next key fact is what is area under the curve. The area under the load curve represents the total energy consumed, or we can say that generated during the period covered by the curve. Next, maximum demand. The highest point on the load curve indicates the maximum demand on the power system during that period. We are going to see about that previous case. For considering this image or this figure, what is maximum demand? Here representing the highest power demand, that is 20 megawatts is the maximum demand. Okay. Next, average load. The average load is calculated by dividing the total energy consumption by the time over the time period. Okay. Total time period, we can call this total time period. Next, load factor. The load factor is the ratio of average load to maximum demand, indicating how efficiently the power system is being utilized. So these are the factors we have, why we have to go with the importance of the load curve we have seen already. Hopefully, dear students, hopefully you have understood about that what is load curve, what is the difference between the load curve and load duration curve, what are the important parameters about that load curve. Next, we have seen about the key aspect of load curves. Hopefully, you have understood about that about the load curves very clearly. Thank you. Next, we are going to see about that load factor. What is load factor? Load factor is defined as the ratio of the average load over a given period to the maximum demand, or we can say that the peak load occurring in the period. We can say that in other words, the total load factor is the ratio of energy consumed in a given period of the times of hours to the peak load which has occurred during that particular period. We can say that load factor is the ratio of average load to the peak load, or we can say that the average load divided by the maximum demand over specific time of period. It is a measure of the utilization of the electrical energy during a given period to the maximum energy which would have been utilized in that period. It is very important role in the cost of generation per unit. We can say that the cost, the load factor is very important. What is my average load and what is my demand? We are going to take for the highest load factor. The higher the load factor, the smaller will be the generation cost for the same maximum demand. That means what? The load factor is very small. The generation cost for the same maximum demand. So we can say that the load factor average load with respect to time divided by peak loads with respect to time. We are going to see about the daily load factor. Unit generated in a day divided by the maximum demand in 24 hours. Similarly, monthly load factor unit generated in a month divided by maximum demand in a month 720 hours. Similarly, yearly load factors unit generated in a year divided by maximum demand in the 8760 hours. So we have to see about this. So what is load factor? How we are going to calculate daily load, monthly load and yearly load factors? It is very important for power system. Hope in this video you understood about that load curve and load deviation curve and load factors.